When it comes to troubleshooting drivability or performance problems on today's high-tech vehicles, a lot of people figure that they can't work on them and they'll just have to take them into the shop. Well, that's certainly an option. In fact, I'd suggest you take it into a Crown Auto Service Center at your local Champion Auto store if you have to do that. But that's probably not the reason that you selected this tape. Because Car Care Seminar is designed to save you money by helping you learn how to perform the repairs on your own vehicle in a manner that will not only save you that money, but it'll help you do the repairs the right way and the safe way the first time and every time. Hi, I'm Scott Cusey, and I'll be your narrator and host as we take a look at troubleshooting drivability problems associated with some of the fuel and emission control devices on today's vehicles. Well, troubleshooting drivability problems used to be pretty easy and straightforward back when I started working on vehicles. Of course, that's when mechanical fuel pumps and carburetors and even point-type ignition systems were popular. But today's highly advanced and electronically controlled vehicles pose a new challenge for all of us. But it's not a challenge that we can't overcome. It just seems like the hardest part is either knowing where to get started or where to locate the information that you need to perform the task. As I just mentioned, this videotape will cover identifying and repairing drivability problems normally related to the fuel and emission systems. Now, during this chapter, I'll briefly discuss the topics that will be covered on this tape, as well as the tools that you will need to perform the repairs described. Now, beginning with Chapter 2, we'll move right into the emissions control system. The item we'll begin with is the AIR, or Air Injection Reactor Pump. Testing the air pump is what we'll cover first, and we'll continue that topic by demonstrating air pump replacement in Chapter 3, and air manifold and check valve testing and replacement in Chapter 4. In Chapter 5, we'll look at testing and replacing an item that has actually been used on vehicles for over 30 years, and that is thermal ported vacuum switches. Chapter 6 and 7 will discuss another system that's been around for quite a while, the EGR, or exhaust gas recirculation system. One of the key components for optimum performance and emissions control on today's computerized vehicles is the oxygen sensor. Chapters 8 and 9 will show you how easy it is to test the oxygen sensor, along with sharing some tips for successfully replacing one. An equally important sensor used on computerized vehicles for control of the fuel and emission systems is the coolant temperature sensor. Chapters 10 and 11 will discuss inspecting, testing, and replacing coolant temperature sensors. In Chapters 12 and 13, we'll be discussing how to test and replace idle air control motors, which are used to help control the air mixture and idle speed on fuel-injected vehicles. This item can definitely affect the emissions levels measured at idle. During our last chapter, we'll move down underneath the vehicle and discuss how to test and demonstrate how to replace your catalytic converter. They don't often fail, but when they do, it can be a tough one to figure out if you don't know where to look. Well, that pretty much wraps up the areas we'll be discussing on the tape. So now let's talk about the tools we'll be using to perform the testing and replacement portions of the tape. Now, everyone pretty much realizes you're going to have a pretty good selection of the basic hand tools to work on your vehicle. Now, some examples of that include combination wrenches, both metric and standard, a good selection of pliers, including locking pliers and needle nose type, quarter drive and 3/8 drive shallow and deep well socket sets, again, both metric and standard, a torque wrench, a hammer, some punches, and a rubber mallet, Phillips and flat blade screwdrivers, and one of my favorites, a magnetic screwdriver and a good selection of bits, safety glasses and a pair of work gloves, a handheld propane torch, a set of metric and standard tubing wrenches, a wire cutter and crimper, some shop towels and hand cleaner for cleaning up afterwards, a drain pan and some funnels, a soldering gun and rosin core solder, and a floor jack and a set of jack stands for any of the procedures that may take you down to the underside of the vehicle. Now, you'll also need a few basic shop-type chemicals and sealants like Teflon thread sealing tape, penetrating oil, anti-seize compound, and even spray carburetor cleaner. Now let's look at some of the more specialized tools that you might need. Torx bits are becoming a more popular type of fastener for many different items on vehicles all the time. So you'll most likely need a set of Torx bits that range from size 10 through about size 50. Now, another couple of common troubleshooting tools are these right here: a hand vacuum pump and a handheld vacuum pressure tester. We'll use these to check vacuum diaphragms and vacuum-related switches and relays. You also need to have a handheld digital volt-ohm meter for testing the electrical circuits. And it's also a good idea to have around a couple of jumper leads too. Now here's a handy little item that many people don't even have, and that is an inspection mirror. It can really help you get in to see things in places that you've never thought you could see. Now, one of the most important items that any mechanic has is the correct service manual for the particular vehicle they're working on. Now, one of the best you can buy is a Haynes manual, because they deal specifically with the disassembly and reassembly of your particular vehicle. From specifications to detailed instructions and illustrations, you'll find just about everything that you need to know about your vehicle in one of these. And that pretty much wraps up our tool selection. Now, on the front cover of this tape, you'll find a troubleshooting guide that lists the most common drivability complaints that can be caused by one or more of the items that are discussed on the tape. Now, before you begin watching the tape, check this guide for the driving symptom that you're experiencing with your vehicle. It might save you some time. Also, right at the beginning, it contains a chapter listing and a space for you to enter your VCR counter number next to each chapter for fast and easy future reference. As you're viewing the tape, you'll also notice that we've included the chapter number in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Now, one last thing I'd like to point out is that the demonstrations shown on this tape are typical examples of repair procedures being performed on common vehicles. Now, for details on the procedures for your particular make and model, once again, I suggest you pick up a Haynes manual before starting your repairs. And the best place to pick one up is, of course, Champion Auto Stores, as they carry a complete line of Haynes manuals right in stock. I'd like to thank you for choosing Car Care Seminar and for giving us the opportunity to help you learn more about your car. Before you start your next project, check to see if there's a Car Care Seminar tape to help you do the job the right way the first time. Now, let's get started with our first repair.
The AIR, or air pump, is the heart of the air injection reactor system, which plays a key role in lowering your vehicle's exhaust emissions and protecting our environment. The AIR system provides several different functions related to vehicle emissions. It reduces hydrocarbons, HC, carbon monoxide levels, CO, and helps to lower nitrogen oxides, or NOx emissions. It's also used to rapidly heat up the catalytic converter on engine startup so conversion of exhaust gases can occur sooner. An air pump is actually a belt-driven air compressor on the front of the engine that provides cool air to the AIR system. Air is drawn through the centrifugal filter fan at the front of the pump. It is then sent to a diverter valve that directs it to the air cleaner, the intake manifold, the exhaust manifolds, or the catalytic converter in different situations to help control exhaust emissions and drivability. When it is directed to the catalytic converter, it provides additional heat to help control NOx emissions. When it is directed to the exhaust manifolds, the oxygen in the air helps burn off excessive hydrocarbon and carbon monoxide gases before emitting them into our atmosphere. A failing air pump can often be detected by a loud squealing noise coming from the pump's drive belt. Many times the belt will only squeal for a short time before breaking and flying off while driving.